on the topic. It is still being, how can I say, completely finalized. So some of the information that we have might change, the dates might change, all of those kind of little nitty-gritties. The basis of it, what we know, we'll be sharing with you. So I just also want to send a shout out to my team or our team here helping us. We've got Lisa, who actually will probably deal with any administrative queries and things you might have on the two-pot. We've got Estelle, as you know, and then Rafiwa in the back as well, who deals with all our medical aid claims. So, as we mentioned, this is quite an interesting topic that is coming into effect 1st of September. Some of the retirement funds have not submitted evidence that they're able to make those changes. So again, that could put a stumbling block in the time frame. I think only about 2/3 of retirement funds have actually submitted the relevant paperwork to the FSCA. So there are some delays. The deadline for that was, I think, the end of June. So some of them have failed to make target or make that date. Then I also just want to maybe engage with you guys. What do you think about these changes? And what do you understand by these changes? You've heard it depends on your age?
I think it depends on your age, what into the barrel.
Yeah. Totally. Yeah.
That's why we're here.
To learn.
For me, it's twofold. They're kind of trying to make money available to people,
Mm-hmm.
and then they're forcing you to save for a time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's what I seem to get from the reading.
Yeah. Yes.
For me, I think it's more government wanting to get money out of us than actually them thinking for us.
Mm-hmm.
My reason is that, I mean, I think it shouldn't have been a one blanket kind of an approach. It should have been by case, case by case kind of a scenario. So I really don't think they had us at the government put this together.
Yeah.
Unless this information that I get will be different.
Possibly. Possibly. So I think just to even agree with you there, I had such a negative perspective of this before I started my research. And in doing some of the research, yes, there are cons, but there are also some pros for individuals, for retirement savings as a whole, etc. But hopefully by the end of the presentation, you'll be able to understand where you fit into the scenario, how does it impact you? I think that's really what you want to know at the end of the day. Okay. So just before we get into all of those details, we just want to reiterate that we are certified financial planners, both myself and Shirley, with the Financial Planning Institute. We are wealth advisors. We discuss everything with our clients, from investments to your risk planning. Shirley is qualified to be an executor on winding up with estates. So we really are a holistic financial planning practice, but we do make use of discovery solutions for our clients in order to fill a specific need. So please do reach out to us, engage with us, set up some time if there's something specific you would like to discuss on your financial planning journey. And also I've given you all here a handout. So on that handout is some QR codes. Those will connect you to various articles, which I think are quite nice and give nice summaries, as well as to a tool that Discovery itself has built in terms of calculating what would your withdrawal look like and those kind of things. So I will get into that tool, and we'll hopefully, if technology is on my side, do a live demonstration. Estelle is usually IT support, but sometimes I have to jump in and make things happen. So if we start and just understand the history of retirement savings. Shirley and I were doing some research on this, and what was quite interesting is there was evidence to show that start of retirement provision or putting something away for old age actually started in the Roman Empire, especially within the army. So a portion of their income was actually withheld by the government at the time and given back to them in the form of annual payments after their service. So that's kind of where the first start of the retirement annuities came into effect, or retirement savings. How we understand it today originated around the 1950s, possibly a little bit before. But in South Africa, we had our Pension Funds Act signed into law in 1956. And that is effectively our guideline on how retirement funds work, what are the rules around it. And this is the piece of legislation that has been amended and will come into effect 1st of September. So our Pension Funds Act is our effective guideline on how these types of investments operate, all the rules around funds, and everyone needs to abide by those rules, especially given our governing bodies and those type of elements. So in terms of retirement funds in South Africa, we've got quite a few options, and you'll hear people talk about pension funds and provident funds and retirement annuities or retirement funds. So retirement funds is almost just a blanket term that we use that encompasses all three of those: provident, pension, retirement. Pension funds were at the start of our retirement journey in South Africa, and pension funds can only be in the capacity as an employee. You cannot go and take out a personal pension fund in those specific terms. So pension funds were implemented around the 1950s, 1956, but then we saw that the compulsory annuitization of those at retirement, which means you have to put 2/3 into an annuity to give you an income, that wasn't working for a lot of migrant laborers that we were getting, from the rest of Africa or from overseas. So provident funds were implemented to allow you to withdraw your whole retirement provident fund as cash in retirement. So that is where the distinguishing changes came between pension funds and provident funds. However, what we saw over many years is that when people did take their entire provident fund out, those funds were not used to provide an income for the rest of their lives. Those funds were used unnecessarily or necessarily, but the funds ran out too quickly for it to be sustainable. So that's when you saw the changes coming into effect on the 1st of March 2021, where provident funds now follow the exact same rules as pension funds and retirement annuities, where any contributions in a provident fund after that date, 2/3 can be 2/3 it must be annuitized, and 1/3 can be taken as a cash lump sum. So there is an age built into this, that if you were 55 years old as of the 1st of March 2021, that rule didn't apply to you. You could still take your provident fund out as a lump sum. So that's where age comes into play, and you'll see it.
Taxable.
Absolutely taxable, yes. But you could access the full amount. You did not have to annuitize that into an income. Okay. Yes.
Pension and provident fund as well. Yeah.
So is it with one company, or is it
Yeah.
two separate
Yeah.
funds? One company. So from what I can tell, if it's a pension fund and a provident fund, they are separate, because it also again depends on your age. So for example, if you were 55 in 2021, your provident fund works like a provident fund used to, and your pension fund will work separately. So it should be two separate funds. Okay. And that you'll see a lot of employers opted for that option. So 2/3, half provident fund, half pension fund. so that you could have both, the best of both worlds, in the sense of being able to withdraw the whole amount from a provident fund at retirement age versus not with the pension fund. So sometimes you'll see that. And I know Discovery, I think, does that as well. Okay. So now we get on to the two-pot system. And I've just got a little video, and I hope you can appreciate Skeen, who made this delicious foods, creativity that we have two ginormous pots of food, which I think is very clever. I just want to play a short video from Discovery, just introducing the two-pot system a bit. See if I can get this right.
We win, create, we mine. As South Africans, we build and we achieve, but we have fallen short for ourselves. We are the world's worst savers, and understandably so, because so many of us struggle to make ends meet. So, how do we balance the needs of today with the needs of our futures? Two-pot is the first step, balancing short-term needs with long-term savings. From 1 September 2024, our contributions will be split into two parts. Savings accessible at any time, and retirement securing our futures. Two pots for two needs in a country that can thrive. Discovery supports two-pot, and we support you as we create the growth story we deserve.
Okay, now can I get this thing away? Ooh, aha, okay. So, implementation, or the reasoning behind the implementation, rather, shall I say, of the two-pot system, it came about, or the discussions came about, and really were solidified during COVID lockdown. So what we saw is a lot of people only earning, let's say, 75% of income, struggling financially. Maybe they didn't necessarily lose their jobs, but those who lost their jobs withdrew all of their pension funds, provident funds. Those who had a lot of their wealth amassed in retirement annuities had no access to those funds. Retirement annuities, you can only access from the age of 55. So you had a population that was battling and had all these wonderful retirement annuities and retirement savings vehicles, but they could not get access to them. So the two-pot system kind of came into place to allow people to remain employed, or just an individual who has a retirement annuity, access to that cash in an emergency situation, but only to 1/3 of your funds. To try and mitigate also people resigning, drawing out their entire pension or provident fund, and then joining the company again, which we saw happen quite a lot. And it's also not actually really allowed, but anyway. So there has been this massive shift in legislation with regards to retirement annuities. And what we also did see is that there was an incredible amount of pressure from trade unions because, like I mentioned, you've got individuals that are now battling to make ends meet during lockdown, not working the same shifts or hours or whatever it might have been, and they had no access to those retirement provisions, only by leaving work, which also isn't an option. So there was a lot of push from trade unions, but I don't actually think that the end result is exactly what they necessarily desired. So just to get into some more detail on the implementation and what the two-pot system actually will look like, or what it means, or what they say it's going to look like, we've got effectively two pots. From the 1st of September this year, whereby your retirement savings contributions, new retirement contributions, will be split into two pots. You've got your 1/3 savings component, and which is accessible, and your 2/3 is your retirement component. The 1/3 is accessible once within the tax year. You can make a withdrawal. The minimum withdrawal is 2,000 Rand. So if you don't have 2,000 Rand in that savings pot, you obviously can't withdraw. And there's still some ambiguity on whether 2,000 needs to be a minimum value in that savings pot, or if you can withdraw the entire thing. We still are waiting for some clarity on that. I think something that's really important to note, and will probably be a kicker for most individuals in this room, is that withdrawals are taxed at your marginal tax rate. So if you're sitting in a 40%, 45% income tax bracket, that is the taxation that you are going to pay on withdrawing that 1/3 savings pot. So yes, you could see this as an income generating mechanism from the government. But bear in mind that if you leave an employer and you decide to withdraw your pension and provident fund, you are going to pay tax on those lump sums as well. But this is much higher. So now the pool of retirement tax available has shrunk. So they needed to put a slightly higher, if I could say penalty almost, tax on that withdrawal. You've then got your 2/3, which is your retirement component. From age 55, that 2/3 must be annuitized or reinvested into an annuity that's going to pay you an income, be it annual, biannually, monthly, whatever the case may be. You will only have access to the 1/3 that you've got in your savings pot as a lump sum. Okay.
And the 2/3, once it's annuitized, will be available from like 60.
55 legally. 55, that's the legal retirement age in South Africa. But your specific fund or your employer might have different retirement rules. Sometimes it's 62, 63, 65. So it all depends also on that. So you'll just have to check with your service provider.
So you said the minimum is 2 maximum savings.
So we're still waiting to get clarity if you can withdraw your entire amount or if there must still be a balance of 2,000 in the fund. Okay, so for example, if it's 4,000, you can only access the 2 must remain. Yes, wait. Oh. Yes, okay, so that is something different. That is seed capital, which I'll get to in the next slide. Yes, Wayne.
If one doesn't, if you don't withdraw,
Mm-hmm.
any of that third of your money that obviously is contributed off the business,
Mm-hmm.
will that money then fall into the normal retirement rules?
So that will be your cash amount that you can access at retirement, that 1/3.
And it's better to do that
in retirement. After 55, yes. Yeah.
Okay. Or not only after 55.
Yeah.
But when you stop working.
Absolutely. So when you do decide to retire.
Exactly.
Yes.
Because now most people over the age of 55 are still working.
Yeah, absolutely. No, 55 is way too young.
So it's better to leave it if you can.
Yes. For as long as possible.
Not paying so much tax on that money,
Mm-hmm.
which hopefully will be used well. And keeping it in your pension or provident fund until after retirement.
Absolutely.
Okay.
So to answer your question on why it's better to leave it, remember you've got a 500,000 Rand tax-free allowance, if I can call it that you can withdraw from your lump sum pot. That's completely tax-free versus paying your marginal tax rate. Yes.
So now from the 1st of September,
Mm-hmm.
put it into the savings, or And the 2/3 into the retirement annuity.
Mm.
Is that correct?
So let's say your contribution to your provident fund is R1,000 per month. A third of that is going to go into a savings pot. And
But what do they do from the 1st of September? You've already got a pension.
I'll get to that in the next slide. Yes, that's the seed capital. Yes, yeah. So we'll get to that. I think just also on the retirement component, a massive difference or change is for employers and employees. Employees who have pension provident funds. If you resign from work or you're forced to resign or you leave employment, you can no longer take from the 1st of September all contributions from the 1st of September, shall I say. You cannot take those completely. You can only have access to the 1/3. So
Unless you can have access to the 500,000.
yes, so unless you're in retirement, I'm talking about before retirement. Yeah. Okay. So you no longer have that option. Let's say you've got a pension fund of 300,000. It's the year 2034, and you want to now withdraw all of your pension fund. You can't. You can only have access to the savings pot. Okay, so what's nice there? Yes, yeah. Yes, so your transfers are, as long as it was what we call a Section 14 transfer, which is just transfer from different companies, different service providers, that still remains the same, unaffected. Okay. I think something also important to note is because of that rule with employees not being able to now access their full pension or provident fund, is that it's affected the rules on accessing funds if you have immigrated or become, or in other words, become a non-tax resident, South African tax resident. You will now have to wait 3 years. So the same rules effectively apply as a retirement annuity. You have to wait the 3 years to access that retirement pot. So you have to have been a non-South African tax resident for 3 years to access that pot. Okay. Almost want to call it a compulsory pot. I think I had a point in there which said if the fund is below a certain value, so the figure was always a total amount of 247,000, you can access all of that as a lump sum. In terms of the retirement component, that is now 165, I think it is, which is effectively 2/3 of the 247. So if your retirement component is less than 165,000 Rand at retirement, you can access that full pot as cash for you, draw it out. Okay, it's almost, they say that it's almost too small to annuitize. You're not going to get much income from something like that. Okay. So I think this is a question that we are getting a lot of questions on, which is what happens to the funds that you accumulated thus far? How is that affected now? So one of the little short videos on that Discovery page about the calculator, he actually jokes, and he's the head of our group business research and development. He actually joked and said, the two-pot system is, as it's called, it's got 3 pots because you've got your old pot still. And that is where you hear this 10%, 30,000 Rand. So effectively what will happen, let's say you've got 150,000 Rand, there's an example there, in your fund, retirement fund that you've accumulated up till the 1st of September. What will happen is that 10% up to a max of 30,000 will be transferred into your savings pot for you to access as of the 1st of September. Okay. If you want to, there's no obligation for you to withdraw. And I think that that's something that's quite crucial is if you continue as you have been contributing to retirement annuities, understanding this is for retirement, only accessible at 55, the two-pot system is not going to really impact you that much, unless you then decide to withdraw from your 1/3 savings pot. So there's not going to be a massive implication for you unless you decide to withdraw. Okay. So this will be an automatic process. I will say maybe on the 1st of September, don't check your Discovery Fund balance because it might be all demo car for a few days. There's massive systems that we've had to implement. I mean, SARS has had to get themselves ready. And like I mentioned, a lot of the retirement funds are actually not yet ready for these changes. So maybe check on the 3rd or 4th of September. You might be able to see a savings pot. Something I also just want to mention is you can adjust your fund allocation. So let's say you are approaching retirement age, you are probably going to access that, say your 1/3 relatively soon. You can opt to have that fund invested into different funds within the market than your retirement pot. So that is a possibility.
Won't that be taxable?
Yeah, absolutely.
At the nominal rate.
So your 500,000 you get tax-free in retirement. Over and above that, there's retirement tax tables that will follow. Okay. Any questions there in the seed capital?
Can you use that savings pot as a savings? Can you add to it?
No. Only via your contribution, your retirement contribution. So you can increase. So only your retirement contribution, all retirement contributions. So even if you did a lump sum ad hoc into a retirement annuity, it's going to be split to 1/3, 2/3.
And how does the interest that you earn affect? Do they add the two pots together and give you interest?
Yes. Yeah.
Give you interest on the lower amount and then interest on the other amount?
No, so it's all seen in terms of investment, like the actual funds that are invested, it's seen as one amount. So unless you specifically change the underlying funds, otherwise it is invested in exactly the same funds, the two pots, and probably should remain as so. You don't want to necessarily be in a conservative type of investment, depending on your age, obviously, but we almost never recommend a conservative type of portfolio. So it's all seen as one fund in terms of the growth on that. Okay.
What interest rate will be applied to the savings?
It grows with the underlying funds that you're invested in. So the same as the retirement component, unless you specify that you want it to be in two different types of funds. Okay, so it's not like a savings account with the bank where you're just going to get 8%, whatever the case is. It's still invested with your retirement component in the underlying funds that have been recommended to you.
Just to get access.
Exactly. Okay.
Do we know why they specifically chose 30,000? Why couldn't they have just left it at 10%?
So I can't answer for that, unfortunately. I find myself trying to justify a lot of the decisions made. I unfortunately was not part of the process, otherwise it would have looked different. But
10,000 rand seems to be the magic number.
yes.
It's even your solar when you.
Oh, the rebate.
Then up to
Yeah.
5,000 rand.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
So I think it's also to try and limit from this frenzy of let's withdraw all of it, if that makes sense. Or, giving people, let's say you've got 10 million rands worth of retirement savings. Imagine being able to all of a sudden access 10% of that. You also just, again, setting yourself further back on your goals, your retirement goals. So I'm glad that it is limited.
And you don't have to do anything if you don't want to.
Absolutely not. You just carry on living your life and doing exactly what you were doing before. Okay.
And that 30 is before tax, right?
Yes, before tax. Yeah.
I mean,
So when you go in retirement, the savings pot falls away, basically.
So that savings pot you can access as a lump sum cash,
Up to 500,000.
tax free. Yes. Over and above that is tax. Yeah. Yeah.
so we could be talking about, if we put the 40% tax,
Hmm.
you're 16,000 somewhere.
Yeah. No, you've lost a lot.
Okay, worth it.
No, exactly. Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
No, the thing is, I was trying to understand it from their point of argument, because
Yeah.
they kept on saying, we're making this money available so that we could relieve people,
Yeah.
who are in financial distress.
Yeah.
Now, when you look at it that way,
Yeah.
it's not relieving anyone.
Yeah.
It's making money for that.
And it's making the situation worse.
Exactly.
In the future.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I think.
And before you call.
I was going to say some groceries. Yes, Steve.
Is it?
Yeah.
Is it per, so if you have multiple RAs, is it per RA or?
Yes.
Per
Per RA. So it's per retirement fund,
Yeah.
per pension fund, per. So if you have multiple, then you actually can access it quite a significant amount. But again, you're going to get taxed. Yeah. Okay. So then we have.
Okay, sorry.
No, don't worry. So then we have our vested benefit, which is effectively your third pot from before the 1st of September 2024.
Yeah.
Like we've spoken about having access to 30,000 as a maximum or 10%. And I think I have also reiterated that if you leave your employee or employer, if you're no longer working there, just bear in mind you can access the full pension provident fund that you had accumulated up until the date of the 1st of September 2024. So must really be warned against individuals who are thinking, oh, I'm going to resign now so I can access this, because you will still have access to it. It's going to be a logistical nightmare for the service providers, but they will be able to treat it as retirement funds prior to the 1st of September 2024, and they follow the same rules as it always has. Then your new contributions from the 1st of September will follow the two-pot system. So it's very complex and so many different rules, but yes, we had to hold your hand and navigate. Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure. Oh, yeah, I'm going to mention it now. Something that's also interesting rule that they've implemented is if you were 55 years and older on the 1st of March 2021, if you were a member of a provident fund, you can opt in to the two-pot system if you would like. I'm not sure who would do it, but you can have the option of opting in. Otherwise, you're automatically excluded from the two-pot with regards to the provident fund. Remember, provident funds had full access prior to 1st of March 2021, so those remain the same. Okay. Again, we've spoken about it already. It's taxed at your marginal tax rate, those withdrawals from your savings pot. And a large withdrawal or a withdrawal could possibly push you into a different tax brackets. I think.
For that tax year.
Or that tax year.
Yeah.
So even though you've already paid tax on the withdrawal, it could push you over a certain bracket.
Can you give an example?
So let's say you're in an 18% income tax bracket, and now you get access to your 30,000. That 30,000 withdrawal will be added to your income for
Tax the amount.
and you're taxed.
The tax the amount.
No, the withdrawal amount. As far as I'm aware, the withdrawal amount.
So you get taxed.
You're going to get taxed duplicate. So I think really reiterating that you should not touch that fund. Okay, so again, like I've said, from the 1st of September, no full access to pension and provident funds contributions that you've made from the 1st of September if you leave your employment or if you're no longer there. Okay. So a question we get quite a lot, what about divorce settlements? Divorce is a tricky one because, again, we don't have such finite details as yet. But effectively, in doing my research, if you are married in community of property or ANC with accrual, and there's a divorce, and one of the parties has a very large pension fund, provident fund, retirement annuity, there could be a claim from the other spouse to those funds. Now, if there's a court order instructing this split of your retirement funds, which is usually the process that follows, you may not have access to that savings pot. Just bear in mind, should not, again, be seen as, oh, no, don't worry, I've got access to some funds, emergency funds. You might not have access to that because it needs to also possibly be taken into account of the fund value. So, okay, and then immigration, like I've mentioned before, with your normal rules, leaving an employer that has a pension provident fund, you will have to wait to access funds after the 1st of September. Those funds will remain in the country for 3 years until after you have officially immigrated or become a non-tax resident. You have to have been a non-tax resident for 3 years to access that retirement pot. Your 1/3 savings pot, you can still access and pay the tax. But the retirement pot is stuck there for 3 years.
If you resign and you emigrate and you resign the 1st of August and
you take all your money and go.
And how long does it take to get there?
To pay out.
Yeah.
It's actually relatively quick. I think our turnaround time from a Discovery Group employee benefits is 6 to 8 weeks from us receiving all of the documentation. So the form, the proof of banking details, all of those wonderful things. Lisa's smiling at me because we do those a lot. So
I just got somebody immigrating to New Zealand. They resigned and they worked at the end of August.
Oh, then they just missed this. But also bear in mind, even if you resign on the 1st of December 2024, it's only the contributions from the 1st of September that are going to be restricted. Everything prior, you can still withdraw fully, subject to tax, retirement to withdrawal tax tables.
So the thing is not to pay much.
Yeah, so unfortunately it's split without us even knowing. Okay, another key factor is that if you are going to want to withdraw from that 1/3 pot come 1st of September, you need to have a valid tax number, because what is going to happen is that your service provider, Discovery, whoever it might be, will have to apply for something called a tax directive. And also, if you have any outstanding penalties or unpaid tax, SARS is allowed to take what they are owed from your retirement. So you could be in a spot where you think you're getting 16, 20,000 Rand, and that's been depleted because there's money owing or penalties or whatever the case may be. And that also applies regardless. That also applies to if you withdraw pension and provident funds before the 1st of September, what you've accumulated. If you leave an employer and you want to draw out your pension fund next month, that rule still applies. The SARS will collect its penalties from that fund. Just a side note. So with regards to Discovery now, we have a lot of benefits and enhancements and boosts that we offer. Obviously, if you're going to withdraw 1/3 or up to the max, that's going to reduce those boosts proportionately. Okay, so just bear that in mind if you do have provident preservers or anything like that, or pension funds. Okay, pension funds won't really relate here, but you'll possibly lose a portion of that upfront boost that we've offered you. Okay. And then something that Shirley actually heard today at the conference at head office is that if you're a Discovery Bank client and you're withdrawing a Discovery retirement linked product, that transaction is going to be incredibly quick because we can verify your details because we've done the verification to give you that bank account. So that's actually going to be quite a smooth process. You might not need, income tax verification, etc., etc. Provided there's nothing owing to SARS, might actually be quite a quick process. We don't yet have a turnaround time. So if I withdraw today and everything's in order, we're not sure how long that's going to take at the moment. I think the service providers are going to be inundated come 1st of September. So there will probably be delays there and just teething problems getting that sorted.
Now the upfront was
From 65 with Discovery, yeah. Okay. All right. Now I want to show you what does this look like in a real scenario. So the site that I'm going to go to and hopefully work is on the QR code that I provided on the handout. It's the Discovery calculator. Okay, now I have to try and see if I can do this without being so close. Sorry, please forgive me. So this is what the web page looks like. We've got our 3 pots. And here is a retirement withdrawal calculating tool. So hopefully my stuff pre-populates. So I've just used an example here, age 31, 250,000 Rand so far accumulated in retirement savings. And they are actively contributing 1,500 Rand per month. Now, if we go to the next spot, it's going to show us, hopefully, what will go into your savings pot and what will be in your retirement pot. So this is that 10% up to a max of 30,000. That's going to happen. So 1st of September, that's effectively what you're going to see on your retirement statements. Okay, but now let's withdraw. Okay, we're going to withdraw 20,000. And you need to put an income in to understand what your marginal tax rate is. And we're gonna, oh, I've lost my cursor. Oh goodness, sorry. Okay, all right. So this is interesting because this is going to show you what are you actually going to get out after tax and fees. Bear in mind, some service providers might also charge an administration fee. So I'm just going to step away from the camera quickly, sorry. We've got your after fees withdrawal of 13,450. So you've lost out 6,500 at least. If you wanted to catch up that contribution, you would need to contribute an extra 105 Rand a month until age 65. And if you wanted to work longer to catch that up, I think it's about, I calculated the 47 months, just under 4 years to make that up. Exactly. And then it also shows you what would that 13,000 or 20 that you've now taken out, what would that have been at retirement?
Yeah.
So you can see there 500,000.
Really?
So it's a great tool that Discovery's built because it scares you. But yeah, interesting just to play around and see, what your situation would be like if you really, really wanted to access those funds.
Yes, people don't withdraw
Of course, and that's exactly what it's there for. It is there when you are in a dire situation. Yeah. Yeah. Or make sure you don't.
They want to buy a new car, or they want to go on holiday.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
Because they're not, and they don't understand the long-term impact.
absolutely.
They're living in the moment. They're not living in.
Yeah.
We used to invest in something like this.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And I think that's where, yeah, it's crucial. And I actually think it shows the necessity for employers to put in place retirement provisions. Because like you're saying, Gaynor, the youth are not contributing. They don't want their money tied into something they don't have access to. There's so many other options that you can invest in that's going to be better. And I think I do bring it up towards the end, but if you have a financial planner that is holding your hand and guiding you through this, you will have been told to first have an emergency fund that you can access at short notice, things like that. This is not your emergency fund. It should not be, unless obviously you're in really dire straits. Yeah.
Well, the challenge I've experienced in judging on most of our ages is that when retirement planners sold us policies 20 years ago, all they did was earn maximum commission.
Yeah.
All the policies I'm trying to access now have none of this type of facility available to them because they've earned maximum commission. I don't even know who they are.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, swing them our way. Okay, so I actually did screen grabs just in case I wasn't able to use the tech. Okay, so we've seen that the net effect is not worth it. Okay. So remember that this is not a short-term savings. There are other options available. And like I said, if you sit with your financial planner and you create an investment plan where you've got access to certain investments at different times, you know, knowing that you've got an emergency pot, that's key. And again, consult with your financial planner if you are thinking about withdrawing. There might be something else that they have that you possibly haven't thought of that they can explore for you. Again, withdrawing early is going to set you back. I think the one positive is that we see a lot when people leave an employer that they withdraw their entire provident fund or pension fund, even if they don't need it. Because the taxation, it's there, it's heavy, but it's not 30, 45%. So in that sense, it's forcing those individuals to preserve 2/3 of their pension and provident fund for retirement. So that's where they actually think that the net effect on society as a whole might actually be positive because they can only access 1/3 from the savings pot. It's taxed very high that it might put you off even wanting to withdraw, which should hopefully create long-term preservation of those funds. Like I've also mentioned, or we've noted it already, these changes might not impact you at all. If you treat your retirement annuities, your pension funds, your provident funds as you always have, it's only going to impact you if you decide to access and withdraw that 1/3.
Why don't you say it will not impact you?
I should have. I should have. So it will not impact you.
But may means you.
I know there's room for ambiguity there.
Yeah.
I meant these changes may not impact you unless you're wanting to withdraw. Then they're going to impact you. And you're going to pay tax on significant tax on it. Okay. Any questions there? I mean, you might have a million, but yeah. So I think that's key. And I think just, you know, bouncing ideas off your financial planner, asking their advice, doing these kind of simulations. I've given you guys access to that tool, which is a great tool. There's also a lot of educational videos, one of which I'd like to show now. It is about 2 minutes. So hopefully it doesn't bore you, and hopefully I can get it to work.
The $1 million question. In the two-part world, I'm going to have access to my retirement savings.
Yeah.
Should I actually withdraw?
If it's $1 million, yes. But for most people, it's not $1 million. Yeah, I guess some people may have really valid reasons to need that money. I mean, that's why we have two-part. It's a recognition that South Africa has many people who sometimes face real dire straits, have no alternatives. But it's crucial that people are thinking of it as a last resort kind of place to go. And the reasons are quite a few. The first is it's really there for your retirement. So if you take it out now, it won't be there when you get to retirement. And so you'll regret it then if you didn't really need to have taken it. The second one is you pay income tax on your savings withdrawals.
Right.
And that income tax rate is often higher than what would have been kind of a withdrawal rate. You're going to pay tax in it, you'll pay an admin fee. And in fact, SARS will be able to deduct any money you owe SARS before paying you that money. So that's called an IT88, in case you're wondering. So if you owe SARS some money, your retirement fund provider will ask SARS for a tax application. SARS may come back and say, no, you need to pay us all the money. And you may end up getting nothing out. So that would be a good thing to check before you ask for your savings pot withdrawal. And the third thing is that actually that savings pot is a fantastic emergency savings vehicle. Let it grow as much as it can. Nothing stops you from taking it at any point in the future.
Right.
It's not a use it or lose it kind of situation. So let it grow, because you never know what kind of real crisis you might face that may leave you needing as much money as possible.
Awesome. So these are actually some nice videos that are on that Discovery website. This is Guy Channels, who was speaking with the blonde hair. He is our employee benefits, head of employee benefits, and Yash as well. Well, he is also in the employee benefits space at Discovery. Just want to, there we go. Yes, absolutely. Yeah. No. And if anyone is prepared, it's probably SARS for this whole thing. So we can guarantee that their systems are so astute. So yeah, you're not gonna squeeze past them. Yeah. I think just to kind of end off, I want to highlight, why do we use retirement savings? Why do we encourage retirement savings? So some questions to ask yourself, where are you in your current position? And that's, I've left some space if you want to just jot down, what are your retirement provisions as it stands? Are you on track? Have you started? And what? I didn't want to say that, Debbie. And what options are available to you? There's many different options. Even if it's not necessarily a retirement annuity, are you making use of a tax-free investment? There's a whole range of different options out there. So, and again, looking at some statistics, so we're hoping to see improvement on this figure with the two-part system, but only time will tell. But only about 6% of South Africans can actually afford to retire comfortably. And that's been a stat that's remained the same. I mean, after COVID, it possibly could have even decreased, who knows? So that's the kind of latest figure that we have. Another interesting one, 35% of the middle class have no retirement savings, which is a tricky one, because often, there's not really, yes, Wayne.
Are those stats based on people employed?
So I'll have to double check that, but I think it is based on the overall population. So yes, it could be.
Makes sense.
Absolutely, but this is just middle class, so not your low.
It makes sense because a lot of people are unemployed.
Absolutely, yeah. Yeah. So, and again, that being difficult, because the best time to start for your retirement annuities is from the age of about 25. And we can physically see that with this table. We've got Ash, who's on the one column is 25 and starts contributing 500 Rand a month, versus Ash 2, who only started at 35. Ash 1 almost has R1 million more than Ash 2, and that's only 10 years difference. So Ash 2 is a lot of catching up to do, which is sometimes impossible. I mean, you have to survive as well. So it's a fine balance, and yes, the earlier one starts, the absolute better. Okay. Then some interesting stats. Gen X started around 30 years, the average, and millennials much later, at about 35. So my generation doesn't have much hope on this, unfortunately. We have to all be entrepreneurs and Elon Musks and things like that. So if you've worked with Shirley or myself, you would and remember this part of our spreadsheets, our portfolio spreadsheets, which we've renamed your personal life plan. And this is just to give an indication of someone who is 31 years old. I've tried to use the same figures as before. Already has 250,000 Rands worth of savings and is contributing 1,500 Rand per month. They want to retire with 30,000 Rand a month at age 65 for about 20 years, let's say, even though, I mean, life expectancy at 85 is actually young. Mm. So it's probably not even enough for this individual. They should be contributing 5,033 Rand a month to reach that goal. So the numbers don't lie. And we sometimes have to be creative with retirement funding. Do we have businesses that can continue after, we've been forced to leave employment? Remember, your employers might ask you to leave at a certain time. So important just to make sure all your affairs are in order.
Where is that? Lots of kids to be for.
Or that. Wouldn't recommend it.
Investing, yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, that's the other problem. We're seeing a lot of people, I mean, even in my generation, still very much dependent on family structures, parents, things like that. So usually, rule of thumb, we try and encourage a contribution to retirement funding of about 15% of income, gross income. That technically should, if you started at 25 with that, you would be able to pay yourself your last salary that you earned from your retirement funds. But realistically, we don't always see that implemented. And then we can't forget about the tax benefits of actually contributing to a retirement annuity or a pension fund, provident fund. Pension fund and provident fund contributions through your employer taken off before you pay income tax, so effectively reducing your income tax burden. Retirement annuities in your personal capacity, slightly different because you're paying for it with after-tax money. So what SARS does, they calculate back, and effectively they calculate what you should have not paid in tax, and they pay that back to you as a rebate. There are also rules with regards to this and various limits. So we work on a figure of 27.5% of your pensionable salary as a maximum that you can contribute to earn that deduction, that tax deduction, limited to 350,000 per year. If you are wanting to put away more than 350, you're most welcome. What that effectively does is it creates tax credits in retirement age. So it's sometimes used as a tool as we mature in age to build tax credits. Okay. So just to remind you all, some of you know us very well, some for the first time, we are certified financial planners. And this is what we do. We show you your numbers, we let you understand your current position, and get you to understand where you are and where you're wanting to go. Are you on track? Are you not on track? Do you have the right estate planning benefits in place? So please feel free to reach out and have a consultation with myself or Shirley. and we can see how we can definitely help you. Again, we are also experts on the vitality and all those wonderful things. So please also reach out if you've got any questions there or need some help. And we do our cocktails evenings once a month without fail, come rain or shine. So the next one is on the 29th of August, with it being Women's Month. We brainstormed a great idea, women and rediscovery. What does that mean? So this session will be targeted at our female clients or female individuals who'd like to be clients. And it's a perfect opportunity for you to put some change in place. So celebrating the woman that you are, sharing tips on, what you should be doing for yourself in terms of your financial planning journey, and giving you the opportunity to put yourself first for a change. So
we're gonna have masseuses.
well, I mean, we did think about a high tea, champagne, and bubbles type of evening. So if you would like to participate, we are ready to have those candid and frank conversations with our business being Candid 2020. That is exactly what we do, have those difficult conversations with you. So thank you all so much for your time. There's our details if you don't already have them. Please reach out, and thank you so much.
Thank you.
Any questions before we close up and have more food and drink? Good one, Chris.